And so in this divine presence, knowing this divine presence to be right here, right now, I know that each heart is fully open to receive and know the truth. The words that are spoken here today are living words. Each one is lifted up. Each one is shown the highest good. Each one takes a step forward in the consciousness of spirit. More joy, more peace, more beauty, more life, fully present in the hearts and minds of each one. I'm so grateful for this teaching, to know this truth, and I release this to the law, which always says yes. And so as the universe resounds with the yes of this divine presence, I release it and I celebrate.
So it is.
When I was a boy, each week on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two and Jesus made the water wine. I remember feeling sad that miracles don't happen still, but now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips, but now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world out there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. 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 Read a questioning child's face and say it's not a testament. Well, that'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when the church let out, how things have changed since then, 'cause everything is holy now. 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 Everything is holy.
Thank you, Reverend Rich. Perfect song.
Mm.
So I just, before we start, I introduce Reverend Dayna. The wonder of this technology is it's so nice. I see that we have people here who we haven't seen in a long time, and my friend David Lemaster is also here. David is in Idaho. So, Dayna, a number of years ago, Reverend Karen suggested to me that I take some classes from Dr. Tom Sanar, who had an online ministry at the time before it was the thing that everybody had an online ministry. And somehow or other, Dayna and I just connected across across the technology. We connected, and we have been friends since then. So it's a great privilege for me now to introduce Reverend Dayna. Um, Dayna is a licensed staff minister serving through Creative Life Center in Houston, Texas, under the leadership of Dr. Jesse Jennings. I'm going to read the bio that we have from her. She is passionate about the science of mind, having been mentored by the late teacher Tom Sanar. She spent 4 years as his ministerial class assistant. She focuses her ministry on teaching the science of mind philosophy virtually, regardless of zip codes, emphasizing the mystical aspects of our teaching. Dayna spent her early childhood steeped in New Thought principles and later undertook deeper studies. She lives in Encinitas, California, and she's passionate about traveling, paddleboarding, hiking, fitness, and her two young granddaughters. And she is a dear friend of mine. And so it's my privilege to introduce Reverend Dayna Vogt. And may I suggest that you put yourself on mute so that we get to listen to Dayna.
Good morning, and thank you so much, John and Susan, for the honor of speaking to Princeton Center for Spiritual Living on this beautiful spring morning. And I'm so happy to be here and so grateful for the technology that allows someone on the West Coast to speak with a group of friends beyond my local community. So this morning, I want to speak about the blooming of belonging. You know, across spiritual traditions, this season has always pointed to rebirth and new beginnings. In Christianity, it's the Easter story of the resurrection and the triumph of life over the appearance of death. In Judaism, Passover speaks of the liberation and the movement from bondage into freedom. And in Eastern traditions, we find that ever turning wheel of becoming that reminds us life is never static, it's always unfolding. And in indigenous wisdom traditions, spring is honored as a time of returning life and the restoration of balance, relationships being renewed with the living earth. And all of these teachings remind us that we belong. We belong to this unfolding, to one another, and to life's evolution. And in the teachings of science of mind, as presented by Ernest Holmes and expanded through so many teachers, we recognize that this outer renewal reflects an inner eternal truth. Life is always seeking to express itself more fully. The divine is never stagnant. It is forever unfolding, forever creating, coming, and always evolving. And this is taking place in us, as us, through us. We all belong to this blooming. So spring reminds us that no condition is final. No experience is ever fixed. Within the one mind, there is always this impulse towards growth and greater aliveness. And we can be remembering that we are never separate from this creative process. We are the expressions of it. And just as spring comes without fail, so too does the possibility of new beginnings and new levels of expression and evolution. So recent world events have left many folks feeling some sense of despair. And watching the news has become something that many of us are only able to do occasionally, if at all. Across the world, there's a lot coming forward. And we're reminded and invited to trust that something within life and within us is ready to emerge, something fresh, true, something more aligned with who we really are. And this evolution is both individual and global. There is one infinite intelligence expressing itself as all people and all conditions and all experience. That one that we call spirit or God or universal intelligence, the divine, that one knows itself by becoming us, by becoming everything. This truth is foundational to the teachings of the science of mind and spirit. And this means something profound. Whatever is happening in our world is happening within that one mind. There's nowhere else it could be happening. So when we look out at our world today and we see some behaviors of division or polarization or anger, fear or racism or separation, it can get easy to feel discouraged. And many proclaim that something has gone wrong. Some even believe we're moving backwards instead of forwards. But what if we're seeing something else entirely? What if what we're witnessing is not the failure of humanity, but the revealing of what has been hidden? Ernest Holmes, the founder of science of mind philosophy, taught that we cannot heal what we refuse to acknowledge. He reminded us that spirit works through spiritual law, and that law responds to the patterns impressed upon it. Consciousness evolves not by denial, but by illumination. He said every challenge is an opportunity for growth and transformation. So let's consider this. What if the divisions we see today are not newly created, but newly revealed? What if the pain, injustice, the appearance of separation we are witnessing, which has been present but hidden from some, is now rising into a greater awareness so that it may be finally healed? Because we can't transform what we won't face, and we cannot bring light to what is pushed back into darkness. You know, there's a tendency in spiritual teachings to want to rise above the appearances and to say, oh, this isn't real and only the good is true. But with spiritual maturity, we strive to know that the deeper teaching is not to deny appearances, but to see truth through them. To ask ourselves, what's mine to know here? And to recognize these times as a call to awareness. So could it be that something within the one mind is coming into visibility so that it can be transformed? The wonderful spiritual teacher Pema Chodron said, times are difficult globally. Awakening is no longer a luxury or an ideal. It is critical. We don't need to add more depression or discouragement or anger to what's already here. It's becoming essential that we learn how to relate sanely with difficult times. The earth seems to be beseeching us to connect with joy and discover our innermost essence. And this is the best way that we can benefit others. So we can think about it this way. If the body has an infection, there are often symptoms: fever, inflammation, discomfort. Those symptoms are the body's way of revealing that healing and change are necessary. So in the same way, the social and cultural tensions that we are witnessing can be understood as symptoms, not failures, but revelations. The one life is bringing into awareness the places where humanity has believed in separation. Separation by class or gender or race or identity, nationality, ideology, and so much more. And these beliefs have often been embedded in human consciousness for generations, normalized, sometimes institutionalized, inherited. Now they're being seen. And this is where our spiritual work becomes essential, because awareness alone is not enough. We're not here simply to observe divisions. We are here to transform consciousness. Ernest Holmes said, we are not victims of the world. We are co-creators with the infinite. All of us. The same mind that creates the stars is the mind that we use when we think. Wow. So the question becomes, what are we thinking and creating in the face of these current divisions? Are we reacting from fear or responding from spiritual awareness? Reaction comes from conditioning. Response comes from consciousness. Reaction says, they are the problem. Response says, what belief is being revealed here? It's ready to be healed. Reaction personalizes. Response universalizes. Reaction divides and response unifies. Are we reinforcing separation or revealing our unity? Are we seeing the changes and hiding from them, or are we stepping forth to be evolved into a more enlightened future? Philosopher Eric Hoffer had something to say about transformative events. He said, in times of profound change, the teachable inherit the earth, while those full of knowledge often find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. If there's only one mind, then there really can be no other. And this doesn't mean we ignore harmful behavior or ever accept injustice. And it can never mean we bypass necessary actions. But it does mean we understand that the consciousness behind all behavior is part of the one, and therefore it is transformable. It means we refuse to dehumanize even when we disagree. We stand for justice without ever abandoning unity. It means we recognize that healing the world is not about defeating an enemy, but about dissolving a false belief. So what is that false belief? Separation. The belief that we are disconnected from one another, that one group is fundamentally different from another, the belief that life is fragmented or divided or competing, the belief in limitation. But this belief is not the truth. It is a learned perception. And like all learned perceptions, it can be unlearned. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King reminded us, whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. Even Albert Einstein said, a person experiences life as something separate from the rest, kind of optical delusion of consciousness. Our task must be to free ourselves from this self-imposed prison and through compassion, find the reality of oneness. So how can we heal any ideas of separation from other people when they behave in ways we don't understand or tolerate? What can we do? Well, there's a great example, several actually, but one that I love to quote is someone by the name of Father Greg Boyle, who teaches the unlearning of separation. Father G, as he's known, has spent the last 30 years working to transform tens of thousands of lives as the founder of Homeboy Industries. Homeboy is the largest gang intervention and reentry program in the world. And he runs his program on two unwavering principles that are very timely reminders. Number one, we are all unshakably good. There are no exceptions. And number two, we belong to each other. No exceptions. In his latest book, Cherish Belonging, Father Greg teaches us to live with radical kindness and to answer every problem with compassion. He said, we should jettison the idea there could be good people and bad people. We must include every single person in our circle of belonging. When we demonize and divide the world into good and bad people and exclude folks from cherished belonging, progress gets stopped in its tracks. These notions end all conversation. But with the clear goal of a community of cherished belonging, dialogue gets jump-started. So we can hold viewpoints that behaviors are disagreeable and even awful without turning anyone into a monster. When we stand for inclusion and oneness, we are called to include everyone in that circle. The big T truth is that we are all unshakably good because our divinity is unshakable. Do we act sometimes in ways that demonstrate pain or trauma or fear? You bet. Are we sometimes asleep to our innate divinity? Yes. We are all still unshakably good because we are both human and divine. Pema Chodron reminded us that if we learn to open our hearts, anyone, including the people who drive us crazy, can be our teacher. So what supports us during times of profound change and can help us know these higher truths? Well, first we can remember that the universe, the one mind, spirit, is always seeking greater expression, greater awareness, greater love, greater inclusion and wholeness. And this is what evolution truly is. It's not just biological change, but it is the expansion of consciousness. And sometimes evolution requires disruption. Sometimes what's been hidden must be revealed. What's been comfortable must be challenged. Because the infinite is not static. Spirit is dynamic, creative, and expansive. And it is always moving towards a greater realization of itself. And guess what? It does this through us. So when we see division, we can ask, what's being revealed here? What's ready to be healed? What is life inviting us to become more aware of? And then we take responsibility, not for everything happening in the world, but for our own consciousness that we bring to it. Because each of us is a point of influence in the one mind. Each of us contributes to that collective field. Each thought we think, each belief we hold, each perception we reinforce matters. This isn't abstract philosophy. This is creative power. It's ours. And that power lives as spirit within us, ready to inspire and respond to what is ours to do. And maybe that looks like a big, dramatic step into deep involvement. Maybe it's writing a book, singing a song. Maybe it's leading a demonstration or holding the hand of a child. Maybe it's holding a vision, and always it's prayer. That knowing is ours to listen for and then step into. Could it be that in our intense desire for peace, we have forgotten that we are the place peace is expressed and known? Can awakening that recognition open a door to our healing? Also, we can remember that if we hold resentment, we add to the field of resentment. If we hold fear, we strengthen that. If we hold separation, we reinforce division. When we hold our awareness of unity, when we cultivate compassion, when we recognize the divine in all things, we participate in the shift of that field. Not instantly, not dramatically at first, but consistently and over time. That shift becomes collective. So this is why spiritual practice matters, not as an escape from the world, but as a way of transforming how we meet the world and how we each contribute. Through meditation, we remember our oneness and we listen. Through affirmative prayer, we align with the truth and we make manifest. Through conscious awareness, we interrupt conditioned thinking. And through our daily living, we strive to embody what we know and show up as love. We cannot control everything happening in the world, but we can absolutely choose consciousness that we contribute to it. And that choice is profoundly powerful. So perhaps this moment in history is not a mistake. Perhaps it's a threshold. It's a moment where the old patterns of separation are becoming visible enough that we can no longer ignore them. A moment where humanity is being invited to grow, to evolve, to awaken. Not someday, now. And we are contributors to that awakening, not by force or argument, but by consciousness, by clearly loving deeply, and by knowing the truth, even when appearances seem to contradict it. And we set that as our intention. You know, intention is powerful. When I went through training to become a practitioner, I set an intention. I chose to transcend, reacting solely from my personality. And I set about striving to consciously and spiritually evolve, to know my own higher expression and recognize my individualized divinity. And you know what happened? Everything unlike that high intention came up to be seen, studied, healed, and resolved. It was messy and uncomfortable. Birthing is often like that. And I was about birthing a new way of being. When I began the ministerial path, it happened at an even deeper level. The areas nudging for evolution came forward, healing happened, and strengths were revealed, and my life and experiences changed dramatically. Isn't that what seems to be going on here? As our world becomes ever more connected, so many are uncomfortable with where they find themselves, and they too have set this intention for better. And naturally, everything unlike this better life, more evolved living, is coming up to be seen, revealed, healed, and resolved. This is the only way our next evolution to a higher way of being can be birthed. And again, it's messy. I'm a mom, I can tell you, birthing's messy. Dr. King wrote in Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? Let us be those creative dissenters who will call our beloved nation to a higher destiny, to a new plateau of compassion, to a more noble expression of humanness. And we can be encouraged by one of Ernest Holmes' core teachings, that consciousness operates as a creative medium, and that a relatively small number of individuals deeply anchored in spiritual truth can shift the collective unfolding of life. At the closing of Ernest Holmes' Sermon by the Sea, he said, "Find 1,000 people who know that the teachings of science of mind and use it, and the world will no longer be famished." How important is it that each one of us, in their simple way, shall live from God to God, with God, in God, and to each other? That is why we are here. And we are taking back with us, I trust, a vision and an inspiration, something beyond a hope or longing, that the living Spirit shall, through us, walk anew into its own creation, and a new glory come with the new dawn. So I'd like to wrap up with a story and a prayer. These times are not without similar examples of deep differences from years past. Long ago, a politician who preached segregation and racist ideologies had his perspectives changed dramatically after an assassination attempt left him paralyzed from the waist down. In the years that followed, he had greater exposure to more diverse people, and his views began to heal. His ideas of separation healed, and he made so many attempts, both politically and personally, undo some of what he had supported that had been so toxic. And while many were unable to forgive the behaviors that harmed so many, Congressman John Lewis formally forgave him, saying, "When I met George Wallace, I had to forgive him, because to do otherwise, to hate him, would only perpetuate the evil system we sought to destroy." Then in 2009, George Wallace's daughter, Peggy, met with John Lewis and held his hand as they crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge, commemorating the landmark 1965 March for Black voting rights. Later in 2015, she spoke at the 50th anniversary of that march, and she said, "John Lewis taught me the lessons of unconditional love, compassion, forgiveness, and reconciliation. That's exactly what our nation needs today." You know, Ernest Holmes reminds us, love is within us. It cannot be destroyed. It can be ignored. To the extent that we abandon love, we can feel it has abandoned us. Denying love is our only problem, and embracing it is the only answer. Through the power of love, we can let go of past history and begin again. Love heals, forgives, and makes whole. And from Dr. King, we must walk on in the days ahead with an audacious faith in the future. So I invite you to know with me in consciousness that there is one power and one presence, one life expressing as all. There is no separation, only the one knowing itself. I am and all are individualized expressions of that one life. And I know the unity and fullness of that life. I live in conscious awareness that what is unlike love is being revealed to be healed. And I participate in the evolution of consciousness. And that higher consciousness is contagious. I am an agent of awakening, participating and contributing to the creative power that evolves our world in awareness of unity, love, peace, and respect. I am so grateful to know the one mind is always becoming through me and through all. So I release this knowing into the creative law that always says yes. I let go and I allow universal intelligence to make it so. And so it is.
So it is.
Thank you. Mm.
I see trees of green and red roses too. I see them bloom for me and for you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, and also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Beautiful, Reverend Richard. Beautiful.
It's now time for our
offering. John, do you want me to do the offering?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Regina Quince, and I'm the treasurer of the Center for Spiritual Living Princeton. And we thank everyone who donates to our center. Those of you that are virtual contributors using PayPal, it's so appreciated. And then those, when we're on site at the Masonic Hall, those of you that contribute to the center, we're blessed, we're graced, and that's why we're here. And that's why we can entertain and have wonderful speakers like Reverend Dayna to come and join us, to enrich us, and to inspire us. And this is the truth. So thank you so much for contributing, donating. You can go to cslprinceton.org, scroll down, you can donate, and you can also make a prayer request. So thank you very much. And John, well, it seemed like Reverend Dayna gave us a closing treatment. Was that a closing treatment?
Let me add one. Let me
Thank you,
just add
John.
the word here, and I want to thank Reverend Dayna and thank Regina and Rich and Susan and everyone who's here. We're a family. We're a spiritual family. We come together to share our consciousness, and that is so special. It's really wonderful. So thank you so much, and I'll just say in closing, this divine presence, which expresses itself through everyone in the world and has expressed itself today in a special way through Reverend Dayna. This divine presence carries us through our week, through our lives, is fully present in everything that we do. And we, in the consciousness of this divine presence, change the world by who we are. And so I know that everyone here is fully open to that divine presence, is living in that divine presence, and is a blessing to themselves, to everyone around them, and to the world. And knowing this to be so, I release it to the law, and the law says yes, and so it is.
and so it is.
So it is. Aw.
I said, guide my feet while I run this race. I said, guide my feet while I run this race. I said, guide my feet while I run this race. 'Cause I don't want to run this race in vain. I said, I'm a child while I run this race. Yeah, I said, I'm a child while I run this race. I said, I'm a child while I run this race. 'Cause I don't want to run this race in vain. 'Cause I don't want to run this race in vain. 'Cause I don't want to run this race in vain. Oh, thank you, Reverend Dayna.
Yay!
Thank you. Thank you for doing virtual service, which allows me to participate. I love this so much, and I have all these new friends.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Dayna.
Thank you.
Wonderful
Thank you
talk.
for
Thank you.
allowing me to be here.
You're welcome. Have a happy.
Have a happy
Have a
Easter.
Thank
happy
you.
Easter to everyone,
All
Joyous.
and
right.
happy
Thank you to
Passover.
you as well. Happy
Passover.
Easter, happy Passover, joyous spring. I'm
All
going to watch my own children hunt Easter eggs now.
right. Good for you. All right. I'm
Have a
off.
blessed day.
You too.
Bye
Good night.
all.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.